Hello. Hi. And yes, friend, it will be a shorter stream, like maybe an hour today, because I have so much stuff to do, but I still wanted to stream, so I am here. Hello. I'm just a little guy. I love this so much. I got a new thing for you guys. You could now play Wordle on stream. Hmm. Hello, everybody. I set up a new chat overlay and things because I don't know how to save money. Teehee. But it's cute. It's prettier. I like it better than the other one. It's neater. And it took me forever to figure out the colors. But it's done now. Done now. What is this big word? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters. I'm the one who chooses the list of words, and yet I've completely forgotten what list of words I put in. So it's as good as any. I'm gonna read Sherlock Holmes again. I'm basically gonna stream for one short story length, I think, is what it's gonna end up being. So things don't go out of hand. Another news. I have to go out tonight. I might have to go to another thing today. I'm trying to just, I don't want to leave the house today, but I have to leave the house today for a lot of things. And it is not fun. I do not want to. Ah. Oh my god. Yeah. It is very marshmallow looking. Johnny is not wrong, but no, you can't eat me. Please do not eat. Do not eat the fluff. Okay. Time for reading. I forgot to turn off my redeems because they won't work. Like what's just happened. um, I think I set up that command slightly wrong, but um, you gotta fill out the full 8 letters for it to count, or full whatever many letters are in the thing. I'm gonna fix that command slightly so it doesn't do the auto message every single time. Chatbot, chat commands. Oh, there we go. That should be fixed. And then I got that. Wow. There we go. Oh. So you got some letters but wrong positions. Oh, hi. Hi, Johnny. Hi. Um, I'm just doing some mild run now. Right. I gotta stop. My mom keeps texting me and distracting me. I have to go with her somewhere. Um, in like an hour and a half, which is why we're gonna have a short stream. I'm gonna do an hour and then I'm gonna shower. Oh gosh, I'm gonna be out all day and it's, you know, it'll be fun, probably eventually. Uh-uh. Right. Now go. Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Speckled Band. I feel like I've read this one. Um, I don't think I've read it on stream, but I feel like I've read it. Mm, like in my own time. The name just seems familiar, unless they made a game out of it. That might also be the case. I've played some of the old like Sherlock Holmes games and stuff. It really is. There is very few puzzle games that I have either not played. No, yeah, there's very few that I haven't played because I'll either have played them or I'll watch people play them if I'm not wanting to buy it myself. Right, 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 right. What is this word? 8 letters. I don't know. That's for you guys to figure out. Alright. Um, there we go. In glancing over my notes of the 70 odd cases in which I have, during the last 8 years, studied the methods of my friend Sherlock Holmes, I find many tragic, some comic, a large number merely strange, but not none commonplace. For, working as he did rather for the love of his art than of the acquirement of wealth, he refused to associate himself with any investigation which did not tend towards the unusual and even the fantastic. Of these varied cases, however, I cannot recall any which presented more singular features than that which was associated with the well-known Surrey family of the Roylotts of Stoke Moran. The events in question occurred in the early days of my association with Holmes, when we were sharing rooms as bachelors in Baker Street. It is possible that I might have placed them upon record before, but a promise of secrecy was made at the time, from which I have only been freed during the last month by the untimely death of the lady to whom the pledge was given. It is perhaps as well that the fact should now come to light, for I have reason to know that there are widespread rumours as to the death of Dr. Grimsby Roylott, which tend to make the matter even more terrible than the truth. Okay. It was in early April in the year 83. You've got almost all of the letters. That's, huh. Hmm. Again, like I wrote the list myself, but I do not remember what I've written. I have no idea what this word could be. It's probably something silly, some kind of joke. Ah, it was. Early in April in the year 83 that I woke up one morning to find Sherlock Holmes standing, fully dressed, by the side of my bed. He was a late riser, as a rule. Oh my god, yeah. I thought that would make you happy, friend. I, I genuinely forgot that's what the word was. Hey, you did it. Oh, I think the table saw is going to join the white square in like my channel's meme legacy. Oh my god, both of you. Um, it was early in April in the year 83 that I woke one morning to find Sherlock Holmes standing fully dressed by the side of my bed. He was a late riser, as a rule, and as the clock on the mantelpiece showed me that it was only a quarter past 7, I blinked up at him in some surprise, and perhaps just a little resentment, for I was myself regular in my habits. Very sorry to knock you up, Watson, said he, but it is the common lot this morning. Mrs. Hudson has been knocked up, she retorted upon me, and I on you. Ah, the like calling it being knocked up is quite funny. What is it then? A fire? No, a client. It seems that a young lady has arrived in a considerable state of excitement, who insists upon seeing me. She is waiting now in the sitting room. Now, when young ladies wander about the metropolis at this hour of the morning and knock sleepy people up out of their beds, I presume that it is something. I presume that it is something very pressing which they have to communicate. Should it prove to be an interesting case, you would, I am sure, wish to follow it from the outset. I thought, at any rate, that I should call you and give you the chance. My dear fellow, I would not miss it for anything. I had no keener pleasure than in following Holmes in his professional investigations, and in admiring the rapid deductions as swift as intuitions, and yet always found on a logical basis, with which he unravelled the problems which were submitted to him. I rapidly threw on my clothes and was ready in a few minutes to accompany my friend down to the sitting room. A lady dressed in black and heavily veiled, who had been sitting in the window, rose as we entered. Da, 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 da. Just gotta pull up this. There we go. Good morning, madame, said Holmes cheerily. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my intimate friend and associate, Dr. Watson, before whom you can speak freely as before myself. I am glad to see that Mrs. Hudson has had the good sense to light the fire. Pray draw, pray draw up to it, and I shall order you a cup of hot coffee, for I observe that you are shivering. It is not cold which makes me shiver, said the woman in a low voice, changing her seat as requested. What then? It is fear, Mr. Holmes. It is terror. She raised her veil as she spoke, and we could see that she was indeed in a pitiable state of agitation, her face all drawn and grey, with restless, frightened eyes, like those of some hunted animal. Ah, I've lost my charger. Give me a second. There we go. I have to make sure things stay charged so I can take them with me. Mm. Her features and figure were those of a woman of 30, but her hair was shot with premature grey, and her expression was weary and haggard. Sherlock Holmes ran her over with one of his quick, all-comprehensive glances. "You must not fear," said he, soothingly, bending forward and patting her forearm. "We shall soon set matters right, I have no doubt. You have come in the train this morning, I see. You know me, then? No. But I observe the half the second half of a return ticket in the palm of your left glove. You must have started early, and yet you had a good drive in a dog cart along heavy roads before you reached the station. The lady gave a violent start and stared in bewilderment at my companion. Hey, you did it! Yeah, I'm all hearts. I'm gonna keep the hearts, they're cute. One day, hero, one day. There is no mystery, my dear madame, said he, smiling. The left arm of your jacket is splattered with mud in no less than 7 places. The marks are perfectly fresh. There is no vehicle save a dog cart which throws up mud in that way, and then only when you sit on the left hand side of the driver. Whatever your reasons may be, you are perfectly correct, said she. I started from home before 6, each letterhead at 20 past, and came in by the first train to Waterloo. I die laughing every time someone square. I mean, yeah. I'll tell you as much. It is on the list, so one day it'll show up. Sir, I can stand this strain no longer. I shall go mad if it continues. I have no one to turn to, none, save only one who cares for me, and he, poor fellow, can be of little aid. I have heard of you, Mr. Holmes. I have heard of you from Mrs. Farintosh, whom you helped in the hour of her sore need. It was from her that I had your address. Oh, sir, do you not think that you could help me too, and at least throw a little light through the dense darkness which surrounds me? At present it is out of my power to reward you for your services, but in a month or 6 weeks I shall be married, with the control of my own income, and then at least you shall not find me ungrateful. What have I typed that has made my expression activate? I'm so confused. Like, oh well, not a problem for a different time. Holmes turned to his desk and, unlocking it, drew out a small case book which he consulted. Farintosh, said he. Ah, yes, I recall the case. It was concerned with an opal tiara. I think it was before your time, Watson. I can only say, madame, that I shall be happy to devote the same care to your case as I did to that of your friend. As to reward my profession, it is its own reward, but you are at liberty to defray whatever expenses I may be put to, at the time which suits you best. And now I beg that you will lay before us everything that will that may help us at forming an opinion on the matter. Alas, replied our visitor, the very horror of my situation lies in the fact that my fears are so vague and my suspicions depend so entirely upon small points, which might seem trivial to another, that even he to whom of all others I have a right to look for help and advice looks upon all that I tell him about it as fancies of a nervous woman. He does not say so, but I can read it from his soothing answers and averted eyes. But I have heard, Mr. Holmes, that you can see deeply into the manifold wickedness of human heart. You may advise me on how to walk amid the dangers which encompass me. I am all attention, madame. My name is Helen Stoner, and I am living with my stepfather, who is the last survivor of one of the oldest Saxon families in England, the Roylotts of Stoke Moran, on the western border of Surrey. Holmes nodded his head. The name is familiar to me, said he. The family was at one time among the richest in England, and the estates extended over the borders into Berkshire in the north and Hampshire in the west. In the last century, however, four successive heirs um, were of a dissolute and wasteful disposition, and the family ruin was eventually completed by a gambler in the days of the Regency. Nothing was left save a few acres of ground and the 200-year-old house, which is itself crushed under a heavy mortgage. The last squire dragged out his existence there, living the horrible life of an aristocratic pauper, but his only son, my stepfather, seeing that he must adapt himself to the new conditions, obtained an advance from a relative, which enabled him to take a medical degree and went out to Calcutta, where, by his professional skill and his force of character, he established a large practice. In a fit of anger, however, caused by some robberies which had been perpetrated in the house, he beat his native butler to death and narrowly escaped a capital sentence. As it was, he suffered a long term of imprisonment and afterwards returned to England a morose and disappointed man. Fuck. Oh my god. Jesus. When Dr. Roylott was in India, he married my mother, Mrs. Stoner, the young widow of Major General Stoner of the Bengal Artillery. My sister Julia and I were twins, and we were only 2 years old at the time of my mother's remarriage. She had a considerable sum of money, not less than £1,000 a year, and this she bequeathed to Dr. Roylott entirely while we resided with him, with the provision that a certain annual sum should be allowed to each of us in the event of our marriage. Shortly after our return to England, my mother died. She was killed 8 years ago in a railway accident near Crewe. Dr. Roylott then abandoned his attempts to establish himself in a practice in London and took us to live with him in the old ancestral house in Stoke Moran. The money which my mother had left was enough for all our wants, and there seemed to be no obstacle to our happiness. But a terrible change came over our stepfather about this time. Instead of making friends and exchanging visits with our neighbours, who had at first been overjoyed to see a Roylott of Stock Moran back in the old family seat, he shut himself up in the house and seldom came out save to indulge in ferocious quarrels with whoever might cross his path. Violence of temper approaching to mania has been hereditary in the men of the family, and in my stepfather's case it had, I believe, been intensified by his long residence in the tropics. A series of disgraceful brawls took place, two of which ended in the police court, until at last he became the terror of the village, and the folks would fly at his approach, for he is a man of immense strength and absolutely uncontrollable in his anger. Last week he hurled the local blacksmith over a parapet into the stream. Jesus fucking Christ, man, what the hell? You, this man's anger is absolutely insane. Oh, I never did that. Oops. I forgot that I didn't have my Discord open. Come on, Discord. Did I tell you guys? I had my driving test this morning and officially got my driver's license. Yippee! Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so happy. Hi, Sailor. Hello. Hmm. I don't know why that didn't work. You missed it. One of the wordle answers was your name. I also don't know why your guess didn't go through. F-L-I-G-H-T. Yeah, that is enough letters. Yeah. I mean, I picked the names myself, so the words, not names. I have a long list. It's not that long. It's very random, actually. Um, wait, why didn't yours work? It should have. Hmm. Oh Oh, it might be because some of the letters weren't in the right place. That's why it probably didn't work, actually. Ah, Winter is a good guess. Yeah. Also, hi. How was your stream? I'm not gonna be streaming for much long. Cause I gotta go out again. I'm so tired. Ba, 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 ba. There we go. Gotta call a locksmith. I still don't know how you managed to lock yourself out of the bathroom. That's insane. Last week, he hurled the local blacksmith over a parapet into a stream, and it was only by paying over all the money which I could gather together that I was able to avert another public exposure. Have you tried pushing it? He had no friends at all save the wandering. And he would give those vagabonds leave to encamp upon the few acres of bramble covered land which represented the family's estate, and would accept in return the hospitality of their tents, wandering away with them sometimes for weeks on end. He has a passion also for Indian animals, which is sent over to him by a correspondent, and he has at this moment a cheetah and a baboon, which wander freely over his grounds and are feared by the villagers almost as much as their master. You can imagine from what I say that my poor sister Julie and I had no great pleasure in our lives. No servant would stay with us, and for a long time we did all the work of the house. She was but 30 at the time of her death, and yet her hair had already begun to whiten, even as mine has. Your sister is dead, then? She died just 2 years ago, and it is of her death that I wish to speak with you. You can understand that, living the life which I have described, we were little likely to see anyone of our own age and position. We had, however, an aunt, my mother's maiden sister, Miss Honoria Westphale, who lives near Harrow, and we were occasionally allowed to pay short visits at this lady's house. Julia went there at Christmas 2 years ago, and met there a half-pay major of marines to whom she became engaged. My stepfather learned of the engagement when my sister returned and offered no objection to the marriage, but within a fortnight of the day which had been fixed for the wedding, the terrible event occurred which has deprived me of my only companion. Sherlock Holmes had been leaning back in his chair with his eyes closed and his head sunk in a cushion, but he half opened his lid now and glanced across at his visitor. Pray be precise as to details. It is easy for me to be so, for every event of that dreadful time is seared into my memory. The manor house, as I have already said, very old, and only one wing is now inhabited. The bedrooms in this wing are on the ground floor, the sitting rooms being on the central block of the buildings. Of these bedrooms, the first is Dr. Roylett's, the second my sister's, and the third my own. There is no communication between them, but they all open out into the same corridor. Do I make myself plain? Perfectly so. The windows of the three rooms open out upon the lawn. The fatal night Dr. Roylott had gone to his room early, though we knew that he had not retired to rest, for my sister was troubled by the smell of the strong Indian cigars which was his custom to smoke. She left her room, therefore, and came to mine, where she sat for some time chatting about her approaching wedding. At 11 o'clock she rose to leave me, but she paused at the door and looked back. Tell me, Helen, said she, have you ever heard anyone whistle in the dead of night? Never, said I. I suppose that you could not possibly whistle yourself in your sleep? Certainly not. But why? Because during the last few nights I have always, about 3 in the morning, heard a low, clear whistle. I am a light sleeper, and it has wakened me. I cannot tell where it came from, perhaps from the next room, perhaps from the lawn. I thought that I would ask you whether you had heard it. No, I have not. It must be those wretched at the plantation. Very likely. And yet, if it were on the lawn, I wonder that you did not hear it also. Ah, but I sleep more heavily than you. Well, it is of no great consequence at any rate. She smiled back at me, closed my door, and a few moments later I heard her key turn in the lock. Indeed, said Holmes, was it your custom always to lock yourselves in at night? Always. And why? I think that I mentioned to you that the doctor kept a cheetah and a baboon. We had no feeling of security unless our doors were locked. Quite so. Pray proceed with your statement. I could not sleep that night. A vague feeling of impending misfortune impressed me. Ah, my sister and I, you will recollect, were twins, and you know how subtle the links are which bind two souls which are so closely allied. It was a wild night. The wind was howling outside, and the rain was beating and splashing against the windows. Suddenly, amid all the hubbub of the gale, there burst forth a wild scream of a terrified woman. I knew that it was my sister's voice. I sprang from my bed, wrapped a shawl around me, and rushed into the corridor. As I opened my door, I seemed to hear a low whistle, such as my sister described, and a few moments later a clanking sound, as if a mass of metal had fallen. As I ran down the passage, my sister's door was unlocked, and revolved slowly upon its hinges. I stared at it horror stricken, not knowing what was about to issue from it. By the light of the corridor lamp, I saw my sister appear from the opening, her face blanched with terror, her hands groping for help, her whole figure swaying to and fro like that of a drunkard. I ran to her and threw my arms around her, but at that moment her knees seemed to give way and she fell to the ground. She writhed as one who is in terrible pain, and her limbs were dreadfully convulsed. At first I thought that she had not recognized me, but as I bent over her, suddenly shrieked out a voice which I shall never forget. Ah, you did it, hero! Hell yeah! Nice, 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 nice. Yeah, there's like a long list of words, and the widget will just kind of cycle through them randomly. Where was I? Oh my god, Helen. It was the band, the speckled band. There was something else which she would fain have said, and she stabbed with her finger into the air in the direction of the doctor's room. But a fresh convulsion seized her and choked her words. I rushed out, calling loudly for my stepfather, and I met him hastening from his room in his dressing gown. When he reached my sister's side, she was unconscious, and though he poured brandy down her throat and sent for medical aid from the village, all efforts were in vain. For she so slowly sank and died without having recovered her consciousness. Such was the dreadful end of my beloved sister. One moment, said Holmes. Are you sure about this whistle and the metallic sound? Can you swear to it? That was the that was what the county coroner asked me at the inquiry. It was my strong impression that I heard it, and yet, among the crash of the gale and the creaking of an old house, I may possibly have been deceived. Almost there. What could the last letter be? I wouldn't fucking know. Heed. Heed. That's not heed, that's head. Was your sister dressed? No, she was in her nightdress. In her right hand was found the charred stump of a match, and in her left a matchbox. Ah. So hi, thank you for your follow. Coda. Welcome, welcome. Oh my god, Hero. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not gonna be the same square. It's not gonna be the same word like immediately again. You guys are adorable. Right. Showing that she had struck a light and looked about her when the alarm took place. That is important. And what conclusions did the coroner come to? He investigated the case with great care, for Dr. Roylott's conduct had long been notorious in the county, but he was unable to find any satisfactory cause of death. My evidence showed that the door had been fastened upon the inner side, and the windows were blocked by an old-fashioned shutters with broad iron bars. You guys are you guys are guessing these too quickly. I'll have to come up with a whole new list for next time, huh? um, the walls were carefully sounded and were shown to be quite solid all around, and the flooring was also thoroughly examined with the same result. The chimney is wide, but it is barred up by four large staples. It is certain, therefore, that my sister was quite alone when she met her end. Besides, there was no marks of any violence upon her. How about poison? The doctors examined her for it, but without success. What do you think that this unfortunate lady died of then? It is my belief that she died out of pure fear and nervous shock, though what it was that frightened her I cannot imagine. Were there plants in the plantation at the time? Yes, there are always nearly some there. Ah, and what did you gather from this allusion to a band, a speckled band? Sometimes I have thought that it was merely the wild talk of delirium, sometimes that it may have been referred to some band of people, perhaps to see these very gypsies in the plantation. I do not know whether the spotted handkerchiefs with so many of them wear over their heads might have suggested the strange adjective which she used. Holmes shook his head like a man who is far from being satisfied. These are very deep waters, said he. Pray go on with your narrative. 2 years have passed since then, and my life has been until lately lonelier than ever. A month ago, however, a dear friend whom I have known for many years has done me the honour to ask my hand in marriage. His name is Armitage, Percy Armitage, the second son of Mr. Armitage of Cranewater, near Reading. My stepfather has offered no opposition to the match, and we are to be married in the course of the spring. 2 days ago, some repairs were started in the west wing of the building, and my bedroom wall has been pierced, so that I have had to move into the chamber in which my sister died, and to sleep in the very bed which she slept. Hi, hi. Thank you for the follow, Noggin. Noggin Gnome. Hi. Welcome, welcome. Ah, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Oop. I don't always look like this, but I am today. And I forgot to mess with my um redeems. I could do it really quick, but I won't. I've only got a half hour to stream. Let me see. I also don't know how to turn my hearts off. Ah, hearts. Uh, oh, there we go. I can stop being hearts. Ah, okay. Pia, pia, pia. Pia, pia, pia. Go. Okay. Ooh, wow, nice, nice. That's so much gold. Holy fuck. That's a W win. Oh yeah. Why are you guys just guessing names? So I do this, which should work, and also this for if anybody wants. There we go. 2 days ago, some. Wait, no, she has to move into her sister's chamber. There we go. And to sleep in the very bed that she slept. Imagine then my thrill of terror when last night, as I lay awake thinking over her terrible fate, I suddenly heard in the silence of the night the low whistle which had been the herald of her own death. Ah. I sprang up and lit the lamp, but nothing was to be seen in the room. I was too shaken to go to bed again, however, so I dressed, and as soon as it was daylight, I slipped down, got a dog cart at the Crown Inn, which is the opposite, and drove to Leatherhead, from whence I have come on this morning with one object of seeing you and asking your advice. You have done wisely, said my friend, but have you told me all? Yes, all. Miss Roylott, you have not. You are screening your stepfather. Why, what do you mean? For answer, Holmes pushed back the frill of black lace which fringed the hand that lay upon our visitor's knee. 5 little livid spots, the mark of 4 fingers and a thumb, were printed upon the white wrist. You have been cruelly used, said Holmes. The lady coloured deeply and covered her injured wrist. He is a hard man, she said, and perhaps he hardly knows his own strength. There was a long silence, during which Holmes leaned his chin upon his hands and stared at the crackling fire. God damn, I can't speak. Crackling fire. Um, this is very deep business, he said at last. There are 1,000 details which I should desire to know before I decide upon our course of action, yet we have not a moment to lose. If we were come to Stoke Moran today, would it be possible for us to see over these rooms without the knowledge of your stepfather? As it happens, he spoke of coming to town today upon some most important business. It is probable he will be away all day, and there would be nothing to disturb you. We have a housekeeper now, but she is old and foolish, and I could easily get her out of the way. Excellent. You are not averse to this trip, Watson? By no means. Then we shall both come. What are you going to do yourself? I have one or two things which I would wish to do now that I am in town, but I shall return by 12 o'clock train, so as to be there in time for your coming. And you may expect us early in the afternoon. I have myself some small business matters to tend to. Will you not wait and breakfast? No, I must go. My heart is lightened already since I have confided my trouble to you. I shall look forward to seeing you again this afternoon. She dropped her thick black veil over her face and guided from the room. Guided? No, glided from the room. No, no. And what do you think of it all, Watson? Said Sherlock Holmes, leaning back in his chair. It seems to me the most dark and sinister business. Dark enough and sinister enough. Yet if the lady is correct in saying that the flooring in the walls is sound, and that the door, window, and chimney are impassable, then her sister must have been undoubtedly alone when she met her mysterious end. What becomes then of these nocturnal whistles and of the very peculiar words of the dying woman? I cannot think. Hiro, why are you so? I need to. I need to see if I can figure out like a counter thing so you guys can track how many times you won. I feel like I should be able to, but you know, eh. 5. Wow, that's amazing. Alright, hope you have a good time in class, Dr. Bright. When you combine the ideas of whistles at night, the presence of a band of gypsies who are on intimate terms with this old doctor, the fact that we have every reason to believe that the doctor has an interest in preventing his stepdaughter's marriage, and the dying allusion to a band, and finally the fact that Miss Helen Stoner heard a metallic clang, which might have been caused by one of those metal bars that secured the shutters falling back into its place, I think that there is good ground to think that the mystery may be cleared along those lines. But what then did the gypsies do? I cannot imagine. I see many objections to any such theory, and as do I. It is precisely for that reason that we are going to Stoke Moran this day. I want to see whether the objections are fatal or that they may be explained away. But what in the name of the devil? The ejaculation had been drawn from my companion by the fact that our door had been suddenly dashed open, and that a huge man had framed himself in the aperture. His costume was a peculiar mix of the professional and of the agricultural, having a black top hat, a long frock coat, and a pair of high gaiters with a hunting crop swinging in his hand. So tall was he that his hat actually brushed the crossbar of the doorway, and his breadth seemed to span it from side to side. A large face, seared with 1,000 wrinkles, burned yellow with the sun, and marked with every evil passion, was turned from one to the other of us, while his deep-set, bile-shot eyes and his high, thin, fleshless nose gave him somewhat the resemblance to a fierce old bird of prey. "Which of you is Holmes?" asked the apparition. "My name, sir, but you have the advantage of me," said my companion quietly. "I am Dr. Grimsby Roylott of Stoke Moran." "Indeed, doctor," said Holmes blandly. Pray take a seat." "I will do nothing of the kind. My stepdaughter has been here. I have traced her. What has she been saying to you?" "It is a little cold for the time of the year," said Holmes. "What has she been saying to you?" screamed the old man furiously. "But I have heard that the crocuses promise well," continued my companion imperturbably. that, that I No, Ethan, don't go. Fuck work. Tee. But ha, you put me off, do you? Said our new visitor, taking a step forward and shaking his hunting crop. "I know you, you scoundrel. I have heard of you before. You are Holmes the meddler." My friend smiled. Holmes the busybody. His smile broadened. Holmes the Scotland Yard Jack in office. Holmes chuckled heartily. "Your conversation is most entertaining," said he. "When you go out, close the door, for there is a decided draught. Bye, babe. Bye-bye." "I will go when I have said my say. Don't you dare meddle with my affairs. I know that Miss Stoner has been here. I traced her. I am a dangerous man to fall foul of. See here." He stepped swiftly forward, seized the poker, and bent it into a curve with his huge brown hands. "See that you keep yourself out of my grip," he snarled, and hurling the twisted poker into the fireplace, he strode out of the room. "He seems a very amiable person," said Holmes, laughing. "I am not quite so bulky, but if he had remained, I might have shown him how my grip was not much more feeble than his own." As he spoke, he picked up the steel poker and, with a sudden effort, straightened it out again. "Holmes is strong." Oh my god, Hero, you're on a fucking roll. Holy shit. I'm glad you're enjoying it though. Fancy his having the insolence to confound me with the official detective force. This incident gives zest to our investigation, however, and I only trust that our little friend will not suffer from her imprudence in allowing this brute to trace her. And now, Watson, we shall order breakfast, and afterwards I shall walk down to the Doctor's Commons, where I hope to get some data which may help us in the matter. Hero, oh my god. This is insane, bro. What the hell? Uh, It was nearly 1 o'clock when Sherlock Holmes returned from his excursion. He held in his hand a sheet of blue paper scrawled over with notes and figures. "I have seen the will of the deceased wife," said he. "To determine its exact meaning, I have been obliged to work out the present prices of the investments which it concerned. The total income, which at the time of the wife's death was a little short of £1,100, is now, through the fall in agricultural prices, not more than 750. Each daughter can claim an income of 250 in case of marriage. It is evident, therefore, that if both girls had married, this beauty would have had a mere pittance, while even one of them would cripple him to very serious extent. My morning's work has not been wasted, since it has proved that he has the very strongest motives for standing in the way of anything of the sort. And now, Watson, this is too serious for dawdling, especially as the old man is aware that we are interesting ourselves in his affairs. So if you are ready, we shall call a cab and drive to Waterloo. I should be very much obliged if you would slip your revolver into your pocket. And Ellie's number two is an excellent argument with gentlemen who can twist steel pokers into knots. That and a toothbrush are, I think, all that we need. A toothbrush? Okay. At Waterloo, we were fortunate in catching a train for Leatherhead, where we hired a trap at the station inn and drove 4 or 5 miles through the lovely Surrey lanes. It was a perfect day, with a bright sun and a few fleecy clouds in the heavens. The trees and the wayside hedges were just throwing out their first green shoots, and the air was full of pleasant smell of the moist earth. To me, at least, there was a strange contrast between the sweet promise of the spring and the sinister quest upon which we were engaged. My companion sat in the front of the trap, his arms folded, his hat pulled down over his eyes, and his chin sunk upon his breast, buried in the deepest thought. Suddenly, however, he started, tapped me on the shoulder, and pointed over the meadows. "Look there," said he. A heavily timbered park stretched up in a gentle slope, thickening into a grove at the highest point. From amid the branches there jutted out the grey gables and a high roof tree of a very old mansion. "Stoke Moran," said he. "Yes, sir, that be the house of Dr. Grimsby Roylott," remarked the driver. "There is some building going on there," said Holmes. "That is where we are going." "There's the village," said the driver, pointing to a cluster of roofs some distance to the left. "But if you want to get to the house, you'll find it shorter to go over this stile and so by the footpath over the fields. There it is, where the lady is walking." "And the lady, I fancy, is Miss Stoner," observed Holmes, shading his eyes. "Yes, I think we better do as you suggest." We got off, paid our fare, and the trap rattled back on its way to Leatherhead. "I thought it as well," said Holmes as we climbed the stile, "that this fellow should think we had come here as architects or on some definite business. It may stop his gossip. Good afternoon, Miss Stoner. You see that we have been as good as our word." Our client of the morning had hurried forward to meet us with a face when she spoke her joy. "I have been waiting so eagerly for you," she cried, shaking her hands with us warmly. "All has turned out splendidly. Dr. Roylott has gone to town and it is unlikely he will be back before the evening." "We have had the pleasure of making the doctor's acquaintance," said Holmes. In a few words he sketched out what had occurred. Miss Stoner turned white to the lips as she listened. "Good heavens!" she cried. "He has followed me, then?" "So it appears. He is so cunning that I never know when I am safe for him. What will he say when he returns? He must guard himself, for he may find there is someone more cunning than himself upon his track. You must lock yourself up from him tonight. If he is violent, we shall take you away to your aunt's at Harrow. Now, we must make the best use of our time, so kindly take us at once to the rooms which we are to examine." The building was of grey lichen blocked stone, with a high central portion and two curving wings, like the claws of a crab thrown out on each side. In one of these wings the windows were broken and blocked with wooden boards, while the roof was partly carved in, a picture of ruin. The central portion was in a little better repair, but the right-hand block was comparatively modern, and the blinds in the windows and the blue smoke curling up from the chimneys showed that this was where the family resided. Some scaffolding had been erected against the end wall, and the stonework had been broken into, but there was no signs of any workmen at the moment of our visit. Holmes walked slowly up and down the ill-trimmed lawn, and examined with deep attention the outsides of the windows. "This, I take it, belongs to the room in which you used to sleep, the centre one to your sisters, and the one next to the main building, to Dr. Roylott's chamber." Jesus, it's um exactly so, but I am now sleeping in the middle one, pending the alterations as I understand. Um, but there, by the way, there does not seem to be any very pressing need for repairs at that end wall. There were none. I believe that it was an excuse to move me from my room. Ah, that is suggestive. Now, on the other side of this narrow wing runs the corridor from which these three rooms open. There are windows in it, of course. Yes, but very small ones, too narrow for anyone to pass through. As you both locked your doors at night, your rooms are unapproachable from that side. Now, would you have the kindness to go into your room and bar your shutters?" Mr. Stoner did so, and Holmes, after a careful examination to the open window, endeavoured in every way to force the shutter open, but without success. There was no slit through which a knife could be passed to raise the bar. Then, with his lens, he tested the hinges, but they were of solid iron, built firmly into the massive masonry. Said he, scratching his chin in some perplexity. "My theory certainly presents some difficulties. No one could pass these shutters if they were bolted. Well, we shall see if the inside throws any light upon the matter." I know what this word is. Yeah, it's a kitty. Right. We are reaching that hour mark, and I gotta go start getting ready to head out. So we will end that very short, sweet stream there. um, I will say that and I'm gonna post in the Discord about this as well. But this stream schedule will be slightly weird for the next few weeks. Um, I'm gonna try to stream for at least 2, maybe 3 days a week. But I have to study for a big test next month, and I am anxious. So that's gonna be a time, and hopefully all goes well with that. So thank you guys very, very, very much for joining me today, joining Little Marshmallow, and I will see you guys soon ish. Bye bye.